Welcome to this special edition of Cronkite News. I'm Haley Brandt. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, some of our top reports on the sustainability beat, stories on our environment and our wildlife, and the businesses and economies moving toward more sustainable practices.
As storms move in, dust can get kicked up. These storms can make seeing the car in front of you impossible. It's something the Arizona Department of Transportation has been working on. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Costantino is live in Eloy, where some new technology is going in to try to keep the dust down. Nicole?
Tyler, here along I-10 and State Route 87, the freeway is getting wider. Along with this construction, ADOT plans on putting in a new dust storm detection system.
This is the site of the Arizona Department of Transportation's future dust storm detection system, the first of its kind. ADOT will have cameras and radar systems set up along the stretch of the I-10 freeway about halfway between Phoenix and Tucson to detect dust storms in real time. When visibility is reduced, automated overhead message boards will be triggered, notifying drivers. That's when ADOT spokesman Tom Herman says drivers need to do the right thing and pull over.
When you see a dust storm and you can't see where you're going, pull off the highway, pull aside, stay alive. That's been our mantra for the past 7 or 8 years, and we really think that's going to continue to be an important part of this.
It's all in an effort to protect drivers on one of Arizona's busiest freeways and save lives.
It's a very important section for the 2 largest metropolitan areas in Phoenix, where people are driving back and forth. So this will help millions of people.
ADOT says they chose this stretch of the I-10 because it's the area where they've seen the most dust-related accidents. They expect the system to be complete fall 2019. Live in Eloy, Nicole Costantino, Cronkite News.
Monsoons are no stranger to Arizona, but one Arizona study says the storms are getting worse, leading to more damage in county parks. I went to Trail Work Volunteer Day in Queen Creek to find out how some regional parks are coping with this problem. Shoveling dirt,
Which could include
swinging a pickaxe, and stacking rocks.
That's it.
Is not how most people expect to spend a Saturday morning, but that's exactly what 9 people did to help save the trails at Santan Mountain Regional Park in Queen Creek, Arizona.
Thank you.
Trail Work Volunteer Day was created as a way to help repair regional parks in Maricopa County that have suffered damage due to monsoon thunderstorms. The problem, a University of Arizona study says, is that monsoon thunderstorms are becoming less frequent but more severe.
It's kind of like fewer bullets from the gun, but those bullets are a lot stronger than they used to be.
Chris Castro is an associate professor of hydrology and atmospheric sciences at the U of A.
The bottom line conclusion is that our monsoon thunderstorms are indeed becoming more intense.
That's why volunteers came out to help at the Santan Mountain Regional Park.
And we're out here all the time taking advantage of the trails and the beauty out here, and so it's nice to come and fix it up when we can, take care of it.
For the park staff, like Nikki Bunnell, help from volunteers makes all the difference.
To have an extra 5, 10, 15, 20 people, it's amazing. It's a lot of help. It just shortens the time that it would take to repair these trails.
For now, Santan Mountain Regional Park continues to call in the help of volunteers and lovers of the outdoors.
1, 2, 3.
According to the Maricopa County Parks Department, the cost of repairing all the county parks is projected to be almost $10 million by 2019.
Today is the 10th anniversary of the City of Phoenix recycling program. And while the city has made great strides, there's a big problem with what's winding up in recycling bins. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Randolph explains why plastic bags are costing the city big time.
Mounds of recyclables whiz by on conveyor belts on their way to starting their second life. According to Phoenix's Public Works Department, many non-recyclable items are placed in the City of Phoenix's blue bins, causing the machinery at the transfer stations to shut down once or twice per day, causing great expense to the city. Plastic bags are the main culprit of the shutdowns.
They tend to think because it's plastic, it is recyclable, and they don't understand the way the machinery works. It's belts, it's conveyors, it's drums, it's beaters, and when those things are moving, the plastic bags get stuck in there, and there's no weight to them, so they aren't able to move through the system.
Phoenix taxpayers are paying $1 million each year so the city can sort through the contamination and fix the jammed machinery. Here at the 27th Avenue and North Gateway transfer stations, 250 tons of recycling is processed each day, and about 30% of that is contaminated.
If residents are throwing the wrong things in the bin more often or more frequently, then that cost will go up. So that's why my job as the recycling coordinator, the zero waste coordinator for the city is so important. We have to get the education out. We need the residents to recycle more, but also recycle them properly.
Make sure to recycle plastic bags at participating grocery stores, such as Safeway, that provide plastic bag recycling bins in store. In Phoenix, Nicole Randock, Cronkite News.
Other top items to avoid in the recycling bin are electronics, clothes, and yard waste. The Phoenix Recycling Program wants you to focus on cardboard products, paper, metal cans, and jugs made of plastic or glass.
Organic agriculture production continues to reach double-digit sale increases in this country, but regulations with California and Arizona farms leave a lot to be desired. Brooke DeGumbia has more.
These avocados contribute to California's organic industry. The state is the leading producer of organic agriculture in the country. Arizona is 14th, according to the USDA. At Fairfield Farms in San Diego, Lorena Hernandez says it's not easy to make sure her crops earn California's organic label, the nation's toughest.
We do soil samples, we do leaf samples to see where their nutritions are at. So if they're really low, like on calcium, and then they're really high on salt, it's like we have to, try and balance that.
California is the only state with its own organic program, put in place to ensure consumers are buying organics true to the label. Other states like Arizona must go through the USDA to find a certifying agent, which does not address food safety or nutrition.
You could tell somebody, oh yeah, I'm all organic, here's all my paperwork, but at the same time, if you know when they're coming, it's like you hide everything else. There is a very big window for you to put stuff out there that's not considered organic.
Experts say true organic foods bring certain health benefits.
Trying to limit chemicals and processed things going into our body is helpful if you can do that.
Ensuring you get true organics like those from Fairfield Farms will cost you. The long process often drives up the cost by as much as 47%. But this California farmer coordinator says it's worth it.
And it's not just about getting that organic label, but it's being true to that organic label.
In San Diego County, Brooke DeGumbia, Cronkite News.
California produces more than 90% of all U.S. organic sales for 14 different commodities, including 99% of walnuts, lemons, figs, and artichokes, and 100% of almonds and dates.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service does an annual count of the Mexican gray wolf population as part of a recovery plan to sustain its numbers. Last fall, the Trump administration made a revision to that plan, sparking opposition from a coalition of wolf advocates. As part of our Access Across Arizona initiative, I traveled to Apache County, near Alpine, and even into western New Mexico to learn all about the wolf recovery plan.
It's a busy afternoon in the mountains of New Mexico, where the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service pursues a female Mexican gray wolf. Today, she's captured. Her radioactive collar will be replaced, so she and her family lineage can continue to be tracked.
We need the data so that we can make better decisions going forward for wolf recovery, but so that we can also make better decisions about wolf impacts on humans and livestock and things like that in the environment.
The count is a complicated mission. Helicopters track the wolves from above using darts to capture them. They take the wolf to a remote processing station where it's measured, treated, vaccinated, and given a working collar. The final step is to safely release the wolf back to its territory, where it reunites with its pack. John Oakleaf has coordinated the wolf count for more than a decade and contributed to writing a revision to the recovery plan.
You've seen some growth in the population, and it's a heck of a recovery. Anytime you go from 0 animals in the wild to a population of over 100, that's something that's pretty significant.
At last count, there were 113 Mexican wolves in Arizona and New Mexico, but the recovery plan has taken a twist.
The Trump administration finalized a revision to the Mexican gray wolf recovery plan in November of last year. Now, a coalition of wolf advocates is challenging that plan with a lawsuit.
During and after our visit, we continued to press the Fish and Wildlife Service to comment on camera about the lawsuit. They declined, instead responding with a statement saying, quote, "The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service does not comment on pending litigation," end quote. The lawsuit claims the revised plan fails to provide recovery for the species and that it ignores current problems the population faces.
It doesn't deal with illegal killings, which is the biggest source of wolf mortality. It ignores suitable habitat in the United States and relies on habitat in Mexico, which is inadequate for the wolves. It sets population goals that have a high likelihood that the Mexican gray wolf will end up right back on the endangered species list.
Under the revision, the Mexican gray wolf would be removed from the endangered species list in 8 years if and when the population reaches an average of 320 in the U.S. and 200 in Mexico. Absent from the plan is introducing the wolf population into the Grand Canyon regions of Arizona, Colorado, and Utah, an expansion a blue ribbon task force of top scientists has deemed necessary for the population to survive.
Mexican gray wolves are the engine of evolution for southwestern ecosystems. The recovery plan really needs to be replaced with one that's based on science so that the wolves themselves can help balance the ecosystem and be part of the natural world forever.
The Trump administration and the Fish and Wildlife Service have yet to respond to the lawsuit. For more multimedia coverage on the Mexican gray wolves, check out our online report at cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
With looming water shortages in Arizona, farmers are finding it harder to provide the water they need to sustain their land. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Hernandez takes us to one of those farmers.
If you close it off, that stops your flow of water and you can move down.
Almost 70% of Arizona's water supply is dedicated to irrigating the state's farmland, but it's still not enough.
The bottom line is we live in a desert. There's just not much water.
And Kaywood Farms in Casa Grande is feeling the effects.
Quite honestly, it sucks.
With current water prices, many farmers cannot provide sufficient water for crop production.
The biggest problem with getting extra water is it's expensive. It's really expensive.
And because the efficient technique of drip irrigation is too expensive to install, farmers are sticking to flood irrigation, a technique that doesn't always use water to its fullest potential.
Years ago, Hartman's almost 700 acres of fields looked just like this, growing healthy. But due to water shortages, a lot of his land is now fallow fields, like the ones behind me, dry and desolate.
One of the major barriers is just a lack of upfront capital to invest in drip irrigation or some other system.
So if a farmer wanted to transition to drip irrigation, subsurface drip irrigation, that's going to be an investment of about $1,500 to $2,000 an acre on top of the existing infrastructure.
Sustaining these farms is no small task, but it's an important one for Arizona's future.
When you pull it off of there, you can feel the seeds in it.
We have some of the highest quality crops that we can produce in the desert Southwest compared to other places.
It's just a matter of balance.
We have that 880,000 acres is in production, but it could be put in fallow, possibly.
Experts say it's critical to find that balance between providing a long-term solution for Arizona's urban and agricultural communities.
A lot of it is going to be coming down to what farmers are able to do, what adaptation measures they're able to take.
But it's not that simple for the everyday farmer.
So, I mean, we try to use and be, stewards of the land and use the water to the best we can. And honestly, if we had the money, we'd do something even more efficient than the flood irrigation we're doing now.
In Casa Grande, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
It's a different type of Pac-12 challenge with the reward of sustainability. The University of Arizona and Arizona State faced off with schools from across the western U.S. for a zero-waste event. Brooke DeGambia takes us to the winning campus.
There is a big push for sustainability on college campuses, and the Pac-12 is at the forefront. The conference holds a zero waste competition, which crowns the university that can divert the most waste from a landfill and use innovative, sustainable techniques during a single football game.
Getting athletics to think about environment is two groups that don't usually focus with each other.
Mike Carey has judged this competition for the last 3 years while overseeing a recycle program at a local community college. He believes contests like this help address waste problems and get people thinking about ways to help the environment.
I'd love to see it grow, and I like the competitive nature of it. I like them competing against each other, especially rivalry schools.
USC was recently selected as the Pac-12 winner for the second year in a row. It happened during the Utah Trojans game last fall. Volunteers diverted 90% of waste while a green Recycle Man mascot walked around and engaged with fans. The band also cheered when people threw away things in the right bin.
90% is considered zero waste. It's an achievable goal. If USC can do it, the rest of the schools can too.
USC is part of the Green Sports Alliance, which inspires professional sports to go green. Randolph Yu thought it was important to start a sustainability club on USC's campus.
In the last 100 years, we've had great, economic booms and progress and all of that, but that comes at a cost. And I do believe that we need to be, more sustainable.
In Los Angeles, Brooke DeGumbia, Cronkite News.
To help achieve its zero waste goal, ASU implemented a reusable cup program that allowed people who brought a cup to get free refills at every athletic event throughout the year.
Over the past several decades, the bee population around much of the world has shown a steady decline, a trend that worries scientists, beekeepers, and farmers alike. As a result, an Arizona group wants to ban certain pesticides that they say harm the bee population. Reporter Tim Johns explains why the group is fighting and why the issue has become controversial.
Love them or hate them, there's no denying that bees are an indispensable part of our ecosystem. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, bees are responsible for pollinating as much as 75% of all the fruit and vegetables grown in the country.
Honeybees are the major pollinators of cultivated crops. If there are no bees or if the bees decline, we will not have enough food to feed all the people.
The phenomenon of declining bee populations is known as colony collapse disorder, and beekeepers everywhere from North America all the way to Western Europe have raised the alarm.
And the numbers can sometimes be staggering. Between April 2015 and April 2016, beekeepers in the US lost over 44% of their colonies.
It's numbers such as these that are making some, like consumer group Arizona PIRG, call for a ban on certain types of pesticides they believe are the driving force behind the bees' demise. Arizona PIRG says that pesticides known as neonicotinoids have been scientifically proven to have detrimental effects on bees, and that other, less harmful alternatives are readily available. In recent months, the group has been working on a new initiative to pressure the Arizona legislature to take action.
We're also now working to help ensure that policymakers on the state level are looking for ways to address this issue, whether it's banning the pesticide from being used in state buildings, whether it is helping to make sure that folks aren't using them in their homes or in other areas.
Osman Kaftanoglu is the project manager of the Honeybee Research Lab at Arizona State University. He stands by calls to ban neonicotinoids. Contrary to what their manufacturers argue, Kaftanoglu says these types of pesticides do have direct impact on bee populations.
The producers, Bayer and Syngenta, claim that they are applied to the seeds or to the ground. But they are systemic insecticides. They go to the flower and to the plant when the bees collect nectar and pollen, and they carry them to the hive. And when they get enough dosage, they die.
But not everyone agrees with that view. And some, like the Arizona Farm Bureau, say that banning the pesticides outright would hurt the agriculture industry throughout the state.
Pesticides are a tool. Just like a farmer uses a tractor, just like a farmer uses a shovel or uses an irrigation system, he uses pesticides to control things that threaten his crop, whether that be insects, whether that be weeds, whether that be funguses. There are things that the farmer needs to protect his crop from. And so a pesticide is a tool that he uses in order to do that. So it's essential because without that tool, your crop is at risk of damage from all of those outside forces.
Additionally, the Arizona Farm Bureau believes that a blanket ban is short-sighted and won't stop the bees from dying anyway.
There's no scientific evidence that's credible and reliable that shows that a ban on neonicotinoids, just a blanket and in general, is actually going to solve the pollinator population.
The Farm Bureau says that while pesticides may play a role, colony collapse disorder is caused by a multitude of factors such as parasites, habitat destruction, and climate change. But despite their differences, everyone agrees that it's important to figure out how to save the bees.
We appreciate anybody who's out to protect our pollinator populations, because without pollinators, we don't have crops. And without crops, we not only don't have businesses, we don't have food to feed our families and your families.
In Phoenix, Tim Johns, Cronkite News.
You may see bins around the valley asking you to recycle old clothes. One company is responsible for 175 of those drop-off bins. Reporter Tim Johns was in South Chandler to show us how they're giving things like old jeans a new life.
On any given day, the steady hum of machines can be heard here at Bonded Logic, a company that converts recycled denim into things such as insulation for homes and fiber for bedding. Todd Keene, co-founder of Bonded Logic, says that his business serves a wider purpose.
It's important to recycle textiles, obviously, because there's only a limited amount of landfill space and carbon footprint's very large, and especially large metropolitan areas. So any little bit we do, including textiles, is going to make a difference.
According to the EPA, only about 15% of unwanted clothing and textiles ends up getting recycled, just like this here. About 21 billion pounds ends up in landfills each and every year. Edward Kezavangian is a professor at the Julie Ann Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability at Arizona State University. Kezavangian believes one of the reasons why the textile recycling business has been slow to catch on is because there's not a big enough demand for it yet.
There's no incentive for communities to set up textile recycling programs. I mean, if your local community didn't have a bottle recycling program or didn't have a newspaper recycling program, I think most consumers probably wouldn't bother to recycle.
But despite the market's small size at present, Keene believes that the industry and its products have room to grow.
As we develop new technologies and new products to meet specific customer needs, we feel the growth curve is just the beginning right now for these products.
A business making the world more green, one blue pair at a time. In Chandler, Tim Johns, Cronkite News.
The Valley of the Sun could be doing more to capitalize on that sunshine. An environmental advocacy group spoke at the state capitol this morning, to raise awareness for the importance of renewable energy in our state. Cronkite News reporter Nicole Hernandez takes us to the Capitol.
A cloudy day at the Capitol did not stop the Defend Our Future nonprofit from hosting a discussion about solar energy.
And Arizona is very uniquely positioned to be able to use solar energy.
The state's expansive desert and nearly year-round sunshine means high energy potential from the sun. In 2016, solar power made up 40% of Arizona's renewable energy, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration.
The EPA has played a great role in increasing availability and supporting the wider use of renewable energy and solar power, but our current policies are taking us backwards.
Defend Our Future opposes, among other things, the proposed EPA budget cuts and the 30% tariff on imported solar panels. The group wants students to voice their concerns to their state and federal officials.
Unfortunately, what's been going on in the past year on the federal level is keeping us stuck in the past.
Despite the recent tariff that the Trump administration put on solar panels and concerns from advocacy groups across the state, one local Arizona solar company is actually not that concerned.
In Arizona, with so much policy changes that have happened, that one change isn't going to be a drastic change to what we do in our business.
American Solar and Roofing has been in business for 17 years, but Sites has seen other companies struggle recently.
Over the last few years, we've seen, unfortunately, a downturn in the market just because of some policies. So there are a lot of solar integrators that are no longer here.
Renewable energy policy changes are nothing new for industry natives. However, experts agree that Arizona is not fully capitalizing on its solar potential. In Phoenix, Nicole Hernandez, Cronkite News.
Arizona elk have headed east, all the way to the East Coast. Reporter Abdel Jimenez traveled to northern Arizona to show us why they're making the trip.
One by one, state workers used a helicopter to pluck elk from an open field and move them to a holding tent near Flagstaff. Once there, vets looked over the herd and prepared to transfer them to West Virginia as part of a relocation project. Elk were once native to West Virginia, but became extinct after the Civil War. Now officials turned to Arizona to reestablish their elk population.
We knew that Arizona had a pretty much a disease-free herd, a healthy herd. They did not have chronic wasting disease, which is a big concern.
West Virginia project leader Randy Kelly says the team hopes to establish a herd of about 2,800 elk.
West Virginia is so excited to be receiving elk. That's a state that hasn't had elk in a long, long time.
Shevert lives in the area where the state kept the animals for a little over a month. The elk were kept at Raymond Wildlife Area, where they were fed and checked for diseases right before heading out to West Virginia. Kelly says reestablishing the elk population will add to the state's economy, mostly through hunting.
We expect somewhere between $6 to $12 million of economic input just from tourism to our communities.
Several nonprofit organizations paid for the relocation effort. Back in 1913, Arizona also received elk from Yellowstone to reestablish its own population, which has grown to more than 40,000 elk today. In Flagstaff, Abdel Jimenez, Cronkite News.
That's it for this Cronkite News Sustainability Special. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.